The DOJ now moving to dismiss corruption charges brought against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. The mayor telling Fox and Friends yesterday that all claims of any immigration quid pro quo were false.
Think about my attorney, Alex Spira, one of the top trial attorneys in the country. Imagine him going inside saying that the only way Mayor Adams is going to assist in immigration, which I was calling for since 2022, right, is if you drop the charges. That's quid pro quo. That's a crime. It took her 3 weeks to report in front of her a criminal action. Right. Come on, this is silly.
Joining us now to discuss is Rebecca Rose Woodland, a trial attorney based in New York. So great to see you, Rebecca. So just to sort of bring everybody up to speed on this, the allegation, the theory is that DOJ agreed to drop charges against federal corruption charges against Eric Adams in exchange for him cooperating on immigration enforcement.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So in exchange for Eric Adams doing his job, which is allowing the federal government and now President Trump, who now runs this country, coming in saying, I don't want illegal immigrants in this country, and I want to deport those who we choose, who we find are criminals, or for whatever reason ICE decides should not be here. So you're telling me that President Donald Trump made a deal with Eric Adams. He's the mayor of a city. The president of the United States had to beg him to do his job. It is ridiculous.
Well, but obviously there are a lot of cities run by a lot of mayors who are not doing their jobs and are clearly working to circumvent federal laws about immigration. But let me ask you about this. So a bunch of federal prosecutors quit in response to all that. What do you make of their actions? Well,
they quit. Were they the people who were bringing this sort of attempted, what we call political opposition? Mayor Adams claims he complained during Joe Biden's administration and then got hit with these indictments that he said were completely false. Now, was this the same warfare that was used against President Trump with Alvin Bragg, Letitia James? Was this the same thing? Were these people participating in a scheme like that? And that's not where the Justice Department should be.
So one of the really crazy things about the story is that now Governor Kathy Hochul actually has the authority to remove Adams as mayor of New York City. I mean, what are the dynamics that go into her thinking right now on that?
I mean, I don't know her personally, but I would think that that would be a very bad move for her. Eric Adams is doing his job. He complained for years about the burdens this city was taking on with these illegal immigrants. He complained to the administration before Donald Trump's administration. And you're telling me now that she's going to remove him? Why? Because Pam Bondi, who happens to be a great friend of mine who I've known for years, she's an honest, ethical DOJ, that she's running a division and a department that is just doing their job. If they reviewed the case and said there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
Well, I could say this as a regular taxpayer and American citizen, that a deal to drop charges against Eric Adams in exchange for actually doing something about illegal immigration, millions of illegals flooding into, and not to mention tens of billions of dollars that we're spending on this, maybe not such a bad deal. Rebecca Rose Woodland, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.